Live from London, this is BBC News. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are making their way back to northern Gaza after Hamas said more than 300,000 returned on Monday. This is The Scene Live. Donald Trump says the latest Chinese AI model DeepSeek should be a wake-up call for the US tech industry. Russia says its forces have captured a key village in eastern Ukraine as they continue to advance in the region around Kharkiv. And an investigation has found the former Chelsea owner, Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, benefited from a financial scheme that saved him millions of pounds in sales taxes. Hello, I'm Anita McVeigh and welcome to BBC News Now. 3 hours of fast-moving news, interviews and reaction. Palestinians are on the move again today, travelling, many of them on foot, from the south to the north of Gaza as part of the ceasefire deal agreed with Israel. Here are live pictures coming into us from the coast road. On Monday, according to Hamas, more than 300,000 displaced Palestinians began to move. Many people say they're returning to find that their homes have been destroyed or looted. Well, our correspondent Nick Beake is following developments from Jerusalem and told us more about the journeys many Palestinians are making.
We're getting some really vivid accounts of people who've made the trip from the south back to the north. They set off, they say, with great expectations and hope that finally they're able to go back to their neighbourhoods after 15 months of war. But so many people are saying that actually when they turn the corner, they get back to the streets that they knew. There's nothing remaining of their houses. In some cases, maybe just one room is still standing, a fragment of the house that they knew. Lots of people are saying this, and also the lucky ones are very much in the minority, those whose homes have been spared. At the same time, charities are saying that at the moment they've got an opportunity to bring in more aid. They've really boosted the amount of medicine and other supplies getting in, but there's a really big problem. They talk about the electricity and the water being these essentials that simply aren't there at the moment. At least 600 trucks are supposed to be coming into Gaza every day. A week ago, just in the hours after the ceasefire came into effect, there was something like 900 trucks every day. That had fallen to around 300 last Friday. Not immediately sure why that is, but charities say they are bringing things in. I mean, emergency shelter is really important, and so we're talking about tents and in some cases caravans. These are seen as essential because people may well have gone home, if you put it like that, but their houses aren't there, and so shelter is really, really important for people in the days and weeks to come.
Nick Beake reporting, and we hope to be talking very soon to one Palestinian woman who's making the journey towards her uncle's home. Now, President Trump says the rapid rise of the Chinese artificial intelligence company DeepSeek is a wake-up call for the US tech industry. DeepSeek, which its owners say cost around just $6 million to develop, has become the most downloaded free app in the US. It appears to require less powerful computer chips than its American tech giant rivals. But President Trump said he was confident that the US would remain dominant in the field. Here's our tech correspondent, Lily Jamali.
From a virtual unknown to most downloaded app in Apple's U.S. App Store, DeepSeek has become an overnight sensation. It's an AI chatbot similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT, which first catapulted AI into the mainstream. DeepSeek can offer quick and comprehensive answers to your questions, from who is King Charles to what should I make for dinner. Introduced last week, by Monday, it had caught fire in the U.S., sending shockwaves through global markets. DeepSeek's Chinese developers claim they trained its models for a fraction of the funds and computing power used by competitors.
DeepSeek really changes the game. It's not that it's better than any existing models, but it's cheaper, and it doesn't require as many H100s. And a lot of the U.S. foreign policy around AI has been about how many of these fancy chips other people get to use, and China figured out a workaround to that.
U.S. tech stocks sent into freefall. Shares of the AI chip designer NVIDIA, most notably, fell by as much as 17% on Monday. But spend enough time on DeepSeek and you notice that it doesn't answer certain questions. When our team asked what happened at Tiananmen Square, the response we got was, "I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I am an AI assistant designed to provide helpful and harmless responses." From what we've observed, DeepSeek consistently steers clear of answering questions that might be deemed politically sensitive by China.
In the particular case of DeepSeek, they have a bias built in to say things that are consistent with what the Chinese party wants them to say. The deletion example, where it gave an answer and walked the answer back, shows you that something has been added on, bolted on, to try to make this thing conform to somebody's idea of what's politically acceptable.
China and the U.S. are embroiled in an AI race. Just last week, President Donald Trump announced Stargate, a joint venture involving a $500 billion investment by global tech giants in AI infrastructure.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win.
The UK government says Britain's £14 billion AI infrastructure investment also remains on track. With the arrival of DeepSeek, the AI race has just grown more heated. Lily Jamali, BBC News, San Francisco.
And with me now is our cyber correspondent, Joe Tidy, to talk more about this story, which has been grabbing headlines right around the world, Joe. Yes. I was reading Lily's report on the BBC website earlier, and she said that she was reaching out to all her usual contacts in Silicon Valley on Monday to try to talk about this, and no one wanted to talk. I think there was a huge amount of shock, especially in the United States. Do you have a sense that they're now pivoting and thinking, OK, we've absorbed this news, and we need to think about what to do next, how to respond?
For sure, yeah. We're seeing already the sort of fallout from this now. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, which of course is the company behind ChatGPT, which has largely grabbed all the headlines in generative AI for the last couple of years. He has said, wow, OK, we're going to take notice of this. He said it's invigorating to have competition like DeepSeek, and they're going to start releasing more features. I think there's going to be another knock-on effect of this as well. I think we have seen in the Biden administration in the US the word safety used quite a lot about AI safety. Go slowly, make sure everything's tested, make sure that you're doing everything in the proper way. But now I think DeepSeek has really unleashed the beast in a sense. We're going to see companies releasing more products, and we know, of course, that the Trump administration has basically overridden the safety laws that Biden put in place. So I think it's a free-for-all now.
Yeah, because let's just talk about the security issue for a minute. Obviously, there were those concerns, the big debate around TikTok, Chinese owners. Here we have something else which is owned by China.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? Because, of course, a year ago, 2 years ago, we were talking about how TikTok could be a major national security threat to the US. Donald Trump has said he doesn't think that's the case anymore. The legal process in America said that it is a national security threat because of the data that it takes from US users and sends to Beijing is the accusation. And now, of course, we see an app that's risen through the app charts in the US, top of the iOS charts, really high up in Google Play as well, Play Store. And there's no real discussion about the safety aspects here. But of course, it's the same issue, isn't it? Of course, this is a Chinese-owned app that's taking data, and it takes a lot of data. If you look at the privacy policy of the app, it's similar to a social network. For example, takes things like keystroke rhythms to identify people by how they type, that kind of thing. But we're not really hearing about concerns about safety yet, especially from the US. Donald Trump has only said it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, that sort of approach to it, because obviously the US wants to look pretty robust on this. So trying to frame it in a way that paints it as a good thing for the US. Here's a challenge. Here's a competitor. What does this tell us then about the future of the AI arms race, if we can call it that? Are we going to see a couple of really dominant AI models coming forth?
Well, it's fascinating because Sam Altman has admitted this is the first time there's been some serious competition. But I think the interesting thing about DeepSeek as well is not just its consumer success. It's top of the charts. People are loving it. It's much cheaper than ChatGPT and is almost as good as ChatGPT. But it's how it was made as well. Because, of course, these things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini, all the AI models, they require huge amounts of power, huge numbers of really top-end microchips to keep them learning and developing. And they cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Here comes DeepSeek, a Chinese upstart. They claim they've only done it with $6 million. So that's the real challenge here is maybe the US giants have got it wrong. Maybe they don't need as much power, resource and money as they say they do.
And where will it all lead? I wish we had more time to talk about this right now, but we will be talking about this story a lot more. For the moment, Joe, thank you very much. Joe Tidy, our cyber correspondent. Now, some breaking news in the last hour, and the Serbian Prime Minister Miloš Vučević has announced his resignation following months of mass demonstrations over the fatal collapse of a train station roof in November. 15 people died, and there were allegations of widespread corruption. Let's get more on this with our Balkans correspondent, Guy Delorney. So, Guy, why has the resignation happened now?
Well, Mr. Vučević said he was resigning in order to calm the passions that have existed in Serbia in the past couple of months. He's specifically also responding to an incident overnight when some students who'd been placing stickers outside the offices of the governing Progressive Party in the city of Novi Sad were attacked by people who emerged from inside that building, and that resulted in some of those students being hospitalized. Mr. Vučević said that was not an acceptable situation, and that he felt that the responsible thing to do, and not just as Prime Minister but as leader of the Progressive Party, was to resign. But if we're looking at the big picture here, clearly we've had months of protests in Serbia that have not gone away. And one of the very early demands of the protesters was for the resignation of Mr. Vučević, who not only is Prime Minister, but was formerly the mayor of Novi Sad, the city where the railway station collapsed, and also the resignation of the current mayor of Novi Sad, Milan Đurić, and now he's also resigned. So it would look like some of these key demands of the protesters have been met, and the real power in Serbia, President Aleksandar Vučić, is going to be hoping that this is going to be enough to calm these passions, as Mr. Vučević said.
Which leads me on to my next question, Guy. You know, what does all of this mean for the stability of Serbia and the wider Balkans region?
Well, the Progressive Party has been the really dominating power in Serbian politics since 2012. And the dominant figure in the Progressive Party is President Aleksandar Vučić. Many people have said, many analysts, both domestic and international, have said it's maybe a bit too dominant, a bit too authoritarian, dominates the media and the state space. But right now, Mr. Vučić is going to be hoping that this resignation of the Prime Minister will have resulted in the passions being tamped down, and will result in the protesters deciding they don't have anything to protest about anymore. If not, there's the option of going to an election. With the resignation of the Prime Minister, there has to be a new Prime Minister appointed within 30 days. If that doesn't happen, we automatically have elections in Serbia. OK, Guy, thank you very much. Guy Delorney there on the news in the last hour that the Serbian Prime Minister has announced his resignation. Let's just show you again the images coming to us from Gaza. This is the coast road in Gaza where on Monday and today, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been on the move as part of the ceasefire deal agreed with Israel. In the next few minutes, we hope to be speaking to one young Palestinian woman who is making this journey to find out about where she is going, her experiences. As we've been hearing, many of the people returning to their homes or trying to return to their homes to find that those homes no longer exist or have been looted. Reports that people have been saying if they return to where they came from and find that their homes are still standing, they feel very lucky indeed. So we'll be back there to hear more from Gaza in the next few minutes around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News.
Well, let's return to what we were talking about just before that short break. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people on the move in Gaza between Monday and today, Tuesday. Let's talk to one of them now. That's Leen Al-Zenati. She's been displaced from her home and is travelling to her uncle's home. Leen, thank you very much for joining us on BBC News. And you're going to your uncle's home. What has happened to your own home, first of all?
Hi, and thank you for having me. So, my home is in Khan Yunis, which is in the southern area of the Gaza Strip. And we had to flee it on December 2023. But then we got the news that the Israeli forces bombed our home. So, returning back to my home is no longer an option. And what we can do now is going to our uncle's home back in Gaza City.
OK, and you know that that building is still standing?
We're not sure. The last news that we had that it was virtually damaged, but we're hoping that it is still standing.
OK, and then tell us about your journey so far, Leen, where you are you on foot, and what are you carrying with you? What belongings do you have currently?
So we're planning to have like the minimum, some clothes, some food, because we're going to go there on foot. We can't go using a vehicle because the cost of renting a vehicle to go to the north is like really high, because there is no going back. Once once you reach the north, you can't go back by your vehicle. So we're having the minimum. We're leaving most of our items here in the central Gaza, where I'm currently displaced. But then once we can go back and forth using the vehicles, we can have the rest of the items.
So, Leen, we've been talking about the practicalities of this journey, but of course, what we want to know as well is how you are feeling in this moment. Describe your emotions for us.
It's really complex. I think that what I'm feeling right now is a mix of cautious optimism and deep uncertainty, because yes, I'm hopeful, I'm positive. The day has finally come. We can go back to north. But I know that when we reach Gaza, I will not find the Gaza that I knew. And knowing that I'm not going to my own home because it has been destroyed, and now I'm going to my uncle's home, which is also a temporary solution, frustrates me a bit. But that I'm fortunate enough to have some place to go to, because a lot of people are going to reach Gaza and they will not find their homes. So yes, I'm fortunate, I'm lucky, I'm hopeful, but I know that the humanitarian conditions in Gaza City are dire and the resources are scarce. My friends who already reached Gaza, they don't have internet connection. There are a lot of problems. They can't find water, they can't find electricity. So life won't be easy, but I think that we hit the rock bottom, and the only way now is up.
Yeah, and Leen, are you thinking really just in terms of
when we get back?
Sorry, Leen, are you thinking just finally? Are you thinking really in terms of the next few days rather than any further ahead?
Yes, the next few days, because the situation is really fragile, uncertain. It's only temporary ceasefire. We didn't reach the situation where we can breathe and feel like we can rebuild what was destructed and we can continue with our lives. So we're still uncertain. we will wait and see what will happen in the next few days. If the ceasefire like continues to hold, then we can really think about the future. But right now, it's like really hard to think about the future, and like we know that the conditions remain like extremely dire. So we need to live with the bare minimum until things get better, the humanitarian aid gets better, the infrastructure at least need to be reconstructed. So yes, it's really hard to think about the future when the present like is full of uncertainty.
Leen, thank you very much for talking to us on BBC News. That is Leen Al-Zinati. Russia's army says its forces have captured a large village in Ukraine's eastern Kharkiv region. Dvorichna has now changed hands 3 times during the conflict. It comes as the Russian military continues to make advances in the east of Ukraine. Alongside the destruction of property and buildings, many lives are being changed forever on a daily basis. Our senior international correspondent, Orla Guerin, has met Yulia Tarasevich, who lost her mother, daughter and grandson on the same day in November. Here's her story.
Russia's war has taken almost everything from Yulia Tarasevich. Her mother, her daughter, her grandson, Adam. My little kitten, she says. All 3 were here at home last November, where they should have been safe. Then Russia attacked.
Just at that moment, a bomb fell. It flew into the house and exploded, right there. So in one moment, we lost almost the whole family. I lost my mother, my daughter and grandson in 1 second. Now, I don't know how to live. I can't see the point in living.
This is her grandson, Adam, filmed by his great-grandmother, Tetiana. 1 hour later, they were both dead. Along with Adam's mother, Sophia. 3 generations gone. When the war started, Sophia made it to safety in the UK, but she missed her parents and her country. After coming back home, she gave birth to her son, who loved birds, the moon and the stars. Yulia shows me Adam's red coat, which was found under the rubble, torn by shrapnel. It's something she and Adam's grandfather, Serhiy, can touch and hold. All they have left of him, along with one of his favourite toys, now a family treasure. After the bombing, they spent days searching through the ruins. 9 civilians were killed here in all. Ukraine must fight on, they say, not talk peace.
Моє ставлення до перемовин негативне.
My view on negotiations is negative.
Наших людей,
So many of our people have already died. That is no longer possible.
на нашій території.
If the enemy is on our territory, the only contact we can have with them is combat.
З нашої території.
Back at the cemetery, we meet Hannah, a cousin of the family. She's a volunteer who brings supplies to the army. That kept her away from Sophia and Adam.
I saw them very seldom, and it's a big pain for me. And I thought that after the war, I will do what I want, and I will spend a lot of time with people whom I love, but I won't.
Yulia and Serhiy come here often to feel close to those they lost. They know life goes on elsewhere, but they ask the world to remember that there is still a war in Ukraine and that Russia is still killing civilians. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Zaporizhia.
And we can show you again the pictures coming into us from Gaza. This is the coast road by which most Palestinians are moving as part of the ceasefire deal agreed with Israel. Some in vehicles, but many of them on foot, carrying small amounts of belongings. Much more coming up on the programme. Do stay with us here on BBC News.